international laws that Israel is violating. We are also in disbelief that with all of this happening, only 3 of our city councilors have signed on to the open letter to call for a ceasefire. This is despite emails from residents and presentations at previous council meetings. Officials say the death toll in Gaza has surpassed 15,900, and people in Gaza are being told to leave the south even though there's nowhere to go. 1.9 million are internally displaced, forced to live in increasingly inhospitable refugee camps in an even smaller area than before. Homes have been turned into rubble, and fuel, electricity, and fresh water are hard to come by. Children hear bombs dropping around them, and we see the footage of 4-year-olds running away from one of the most equipped, sophisticated, and well-funded military. This is no longer an issue of 2 sides, but a David and Goliath issue in which so many are afraid to criticize Goliath. This is not a war. This is a murder, ethnic cleansing, and a genocide. Prior to October 7th, people in Gaza already lived under Israeli military control. The IDF controls people's movement in Gaza, the amount of aid that goes in and out of Gaza, and how many calories can even go in and out of Gaza. Even in the West Bank, where Hamas does not even operate, hundreds of people have been taken into military custody or killed by the Israeli military since October 7th. There are more tanks and more people being displaced because of a so-called war against Hamas. From the river to the sea, Palestinians do not experience freedom. While this may have been something City Council may have once been able to be silent about, silence is no longer an option. I think by now we have all heard the famous quote by Desmond Tutu: "If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you are taking the side of the oppressor." But in this situation, silence is not even seen as neutrality. Silence means that you're okay with the bombing and shelling to continue. By not calling for a permanent ceasefire, by not signing the municipal letter that has been circulating, then we are hearing that most Squamish city councilors are okay with the loss of life. That actually all lives don't matter. That councilors are okay with children running for their lives, even when they have nowhere they can run. If this is not true, why is council not speaking up? While cities may have little control in what happens internationally, speaking out against this genocide is something that your citizens have called on you to do. Speaking out means joining the growing number of people in this world who are paying attention to what Palestinians are showing us, and not simply believing what Israel, the US, and Western media is telling us. Silence is not an option. At least 70% of Canadians want the government to call for a ceasefire, but Trudeau and Canadian representatives to the UN are clearly out of step with what Canadians are thinking. All of you in this room have a voice, and you are our representatives. You may not be using your voice to call out this injustice, but your silence is loud. Politicians at the federal level are speaking out and shaming Justin Trudeau for avoiding calling for a ceasefire, especially because not doing so means that he is supporting genocide. Our very own MP, Patrick Wheeler, was one of the first MPs to speak against party lines and to call for a ceasefire. Where is Squamish City Council? The leader of the NDP, Jagmeet Singh, was called for a permanent ceasefire and an end to the arms trade. We could even say that even Israel, the country carrying out this destruction, was able to call for a ceasefire, albeit temporarily, before most of Squamish City Councilors. We know that in your inboxes, you have letters urging you to sign on to an open letter specifically for local governments. All of you.
You're at 5 minutes, we'll give you another 30 seconds to wrap it up.
To call on Trudeau to call for a permanent ceasefire and the release of all hostages. You have the opportunity to stand up. Burnaby was the first city to put a motion to call on the federal government to call for a ceasefire. And we know that people have called on Squamish to do the same. Just trying to figure this out. And we know that in 10 years from now, when people look back at the massacre that is happening, you will also be disappointed if you didn't speak out to stop it and say that you disagree with the bombing and the ethnic cleansing. Thank you.